A family of 4 appears in Judge Lauren's courtroom in what seems to be a case of betrayal and infidelity. The husband, Mr. Jaramillo, alleges that their 2 daughters, 8 months old Alexis and 4 years old Naviana, are not his. The wife, Mrs. Stremke, is adamant with her claims that he is the father of their daughters.
Ms. Stremke, you've dragged Mr. Jaramillo to court in hopes of saving your family, which you claim is falling apart due to paternity denial. You say the defendant doubts paternity for both of your daughters, 4-year-old Naviana and 8-month-old Alexis, but you want to prove that he is their father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
The lovers spat to the utmost dismay of Judge Lauren was happening right in front of the kids, with the 4-year-old Naviana, who was confirmed by both parents as being a smart kid, picking up some cues, which left the poor child wondering who her real father is, further driving a wedge into the cracks.
Part because my daughters are basically growing up how I had to. We didn't have both parents, and even when we did have both parents present at different times, we were denied. I feel like they can't trust their dad because he denies that he's their dad half the time. And my 4-year-old Naviana knows. She can hear the, well, I'm not her dad anyway.
Mrs. Stremke almost broke down in tears as she narrated how they met at the tender age of 13 in a lockup facility. Apparently, they both had rough childhoods growing up, and she's trying her very best to give her daughters something different.
It's on the line now?
Yes.
How did it begin?
We met very young. I was 13. We met in a lockup facility we were both staying at. We had no choice. We didn't have good childhoods at all, so we had to stay there. I see it now, and I don't want it to go down that road to where they have to go through what we did. And it's, sorry, I'm getting emotional.
The plot thickens as the circumstances surrounding her first pregnancy are brought to light. There were several men in the picture, one whom she had a son for before reuniting with Mr. Jaramillo when she returned to Iowa, and another whom she slept with 3 weeks before coupling up with Jaramillo.
13 years old. He said that I was gonna, be his baby's mom a long time ago. And it's hurtful now that, yes, I am your daughter's mom. And it just gets shoved under a rug and forgotten about because he doesn't feel that those are his kids. I had just gotten out of a relationship with my son's father and had moved back to Iowa. Well, I ended up...
One of her closest friends went behind her back and snitched to Mr. Jaramillo that Mrs. Stremke had been sleeping around with numerous men, and the pregnancy was not his. This led to the doubt Mr. Jaramillo had about the daughters.
She called and decided to tell him that I was sleeping with multiple men. And from that point on, he had doubted it, which I really don't understand, because how can you base your daughter's paternity off of some girl you had never even met?
Well, it was one of your friends, you'd spent time with her.
What did she say to you exactly, Mr. Jaramillo?
She said that the baby that Miss Stremke had...
The birth certificate of Naviana, which was presented in the courtroom, shows that Mr. Jaramillo fully accepted that he was father, which he later chalked up as a spur-of-the-moment decision as he was happy then, but eventually the resentment concerning her paternity started seeping in.
The biggest sign was cigarettes. Anybody that had smoked and came back in anywhere around me, I'd instantly throw up. And that's how I know really early on.
But what I want you to understand is that, he gets this call and somebody says, this is not your baby, this is the person she was with before you.
Yes.
It's his baby.
The wife revealed that she was perfectly okay with having one child at the time. The husband was pressuring her for another child, a male child. She ultimately caved into his demands, and they decided to spice up their sex life by having a threesome. To top it off, he even brought his own male friend to participate in the second threesome. Even Judge Lauren was bewildered.
That's the part that is the hardest for me to believe, because I was done having kids. After I had a boy and I had a girl, I didn't want any more. I pushed my luck. I have a boy, a girl, they're both amazing kids. And there was a point in time where the whole paternity of Naviana was not brought up, and he was practically begging me for another child.
No protection was used during the threesome. The entire courtroom heaved out a huge sigh. Judge Lauren shook her head in disbelief. 3 weeks later, she was pregnant with their second daughter, Alexis. He said he takes full responsibility for the mishap. When Alexis was born, he didn't sign the birth certificate. He felt, considering what happened, leading to the pregnancy, that there was no need. He also added that Alexis looks like his buddy.
We ended up having a female-female threesome with him, so he got to pick another woman, and it was what it was. We did it, and then it was maybe a couple weeks later it got brought up. It'd only be fair if we had a male, and you. So I said, okay, all right, that's fine. It's something new.
The wife and the husband have been calm throughout the whole hearing. This was commended by the judge, but neither of them is ready to concede to the other. Only the DNA results can put an end to this. The moment of truth.
Mr. Jaramillo, you are the father.
A middle-aged woman, Venus, 56 years old, comes to Judge Lauren's courtroom to defend her deceased son. He died from a violent gun crime. His name was Dominique. The accuser, in the shape of Amber, 21 years old, says Venus's deceased son is the father of her child, and she's here to prove it.
Ms. Mangrum, you're here today after losing your son to a violent crime. You say the defendant, Ms. Schools, is claiming your deceased son is her child's father, which you say is impossible.
Yeah.
Ms. Schools, you say you have no doubt that Mr. Mangrum fathered your child, and today you will prove it to his family. How did you find out about Ms. Schools' pregnancy, Miss?
Mrs. Venus said she was made aware of the pregnancy on the day her son died. Amber approached her at the hospital and told her that her son is the father. Amber countered her statement. She said she messaged Venus on Facebook first, before approaching her at the hospital.
That I didn't want to hear. No time. No, I just didn't want it.
So, Miss Schools, is that how it happened?
No, it's not. I actually wrote her on Facebook and told her, I was like, hey, Miss Venus, my name is Amber. I'm actually downstairs. I was like, I don't know if Dominique told you or not, but I'm actually 3 months pregnant with his baby. I was like, I'm downstairs in the hospital.
Amber said she was very emotional upon seeing him hooked up to tubes and machines in the hospital. Venus rubbed her back, that everything will be okay. Venus interrupted her. That was not how it happened. She didn't remember any of that. She was too overwhelmed with her son's condition to care.
Be okay, don't worry.
No,
Yes,
ma'am. No, ma'am. No. That did not.
That didn't happen.
So sorry. No, I don't remember none of that. Now, the Facebook thing, okay, came after Dominique was already gone.
Right, but you got it. And you told me you got it.
And I wrote you back.
Venus said that before her son died, he told her that about 4 girls were claiming they were pregnant for him. She was acquainted with 2 of the girls, but she never heard of Amber.
I did not care.
I
Who would
understand
look
you.
like
Yes, I
touching
do.
her? My son told me several times, okay, that there is about 3 or 4 girls who say they pregnant by him. Now, I knew about 2 of the girls, okay? I knew about 2 of the girls, but I never met Amber.
Amber said during the pregnancy she kept Venus updated with everything, including baby showers. Venus responded positively with prayers and promised to come visit her at the hospital, which she did. Venus said she picked the baby up and immediately knew her son was not the father. She knew from the baby's hair.
Where he sent me little forwarded messages off Facebook with prayers and stuff, telling me she loved me and, you know, she's coming to the hospital to see me and my baby and stuff like that. And she came and saw my baby for about a couple minutes. She came and sat there like the second day I had my daughter. She came to the hospital.
Venus said she was tired of Amber bringing up the issue, that she needed no reminder of her late son's face, that the only reason she was in the courtroom was to put the matter to bed once and for all. She was screaming at this point. A heated argument broke out. Judge Lauren had to use the gavel to bring them to order.
Beautiful hair. Beautiful.
All Mangrum babies had a head full of hair when they were born. Every last one of them. You know, Amber, I apologize, you know, but I honestly did not want the baby to be his baby.
Why is that?
I did not, because I did not mind this of my baby.
With glistened eyes, Venus narrated how she dealt with her son's demise by avoiding his Facebook. The judge reminded her that a beautiful baby was in court today. Amber iterated that only Dominique's father was kind to her. This prompted the judge to call Dominique's father to the stand to give his own version of events.
He did so much to me, like words, verbally. It was.
Miss Schools, I have to say this. I don't think you were trying to do anything malicious. I just think, unfortunately, this mother at that time could not process it all. Now her husband, Dominique's father.
Yeah.
The father said he was aware of Amber's pregnancy because Dominique introduced her to him. Venus interrupted that she was not aware. When did this happen? He said he's not here to argue, that he's sticking with what his son told him. Venus said she doesn't believe it, that a DNA test was initially done, which came back negative.
It is. It's just a fight, you know what I'm saying? Between them, and it's like, I don't want to be in the middle of it. However it goes, I would still like to be around.
DNA was taken from Dominique's body after the day he passed away. The documents were presented to the judge. Amber said since it was blood transfusion, it could be wrong. Venus interjected that Amber was living with another man at the time. Amber said she wanted to undergo a DNA test then to determine who the father was. At this point, only the new results can tell.
When it comes to 18-month-old Dominique Samaya Mangrum is not related to Andre and Venus Mangrum.
Mr. House, a 48-years-old bishop, appears in Judge Lauren's courtroom, being accused by Ms. Webster, a 20-years-old woman, of being the father of her child. It was made known by the judge that Ms. Webster was involved with 3 men at the time. One of them, who was 9 years older than her, was waiting outside the courtroom.
Mr. House, you're a church pastor and bishop who may have fathered a child with a woman who's 28 years younger than you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Ms. Webster, you admit you were involved with 3 different men during the time you conceived your daughter, including Mr. House.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. House met Ms. Webster when he took on a new assignment in New York. They hit it off immediately, bonding over tragedies. He never for once assumed they were in a committed relationship.
I had in Jacksonville, moving to Buffalo, New York, take on a new assignment as a pastor. I'm a bishop, but I'm also a traveling pastor. But I'm also a man. I want to stress that right away, that I'm a man and I have manly needs. So it doesn't mean that I won't see a woman, but I'm also a pastor.
Ms. Webster said she met Mr. House through her aunt. It was supposed to be a Bible study, but one thing led to another and it became sexual. Mr. House interrupted her. He said they met at a fast food joint and exchanged numbers. Ms. Webster refuted the statement that it was a church.
We could probably, make a relationship and go a little bit further as time went along.
So, Ms. Webster, please tell us a little bit about the relationship as you saw it.
We met through my aunt. We met at a church. It was supposed to have been like a Bible study thing, but instead of that, it was like more.
Judge Lauren had to step in to refrain the bishop from calling Ms. Webster derogatory names. The bishop said it was just a hookup, a booty call. The courtroom gasped. Ms. Webster agreed that it was just a casual relationship, nothing more. She said she was also sleeping with her boyfriend of 5 years at the same time, Mr. Miles Jones.
Well, in Hosea chapter 4, God called Gomer a whore.
Well, we're not in Hosea chapter 4. We in paternity court, and I'm the judge, and in this courtroom, we're gonna respect women. Now, you can tell the story without calling her name.
Mr. Miles was called to the stands. He said his relationship with Ms. Webster started off casual, before becoming a committed one. He said he was not aware that she was sleeping with other men at the time. The judge said it seems only Ms. Webster was aware of both men. She nodded in agreement.
Andre Miles Jones.
Mr. Miles Jones. All right, we are here with Ms. Webster, and of course, we are discussing the paternity as it relates to little Emilion.
Yes.
So was this a
me.
relationship, or was this just casual sex? What were you guys doing?
It was, at first it started off as casual sex for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then I started catching feelings.
When Ms. Webster found out she was pregnant, she tried contacting the bishop. His phone was off. When she gave birth, she couldn't reach him for any support. Mr. Miles said he had to provide the child with diapers and stuff.
I did. She'll tell you
Never
that
did.
her phone was off. Your phone went on. My bankroll's on swole, and I kept hers on swole as well, too.
Never. My phone bill was off of 2
I'm
months.
sure
her
glad
phone
your
was not-
bankroll is
her-
on
her
swole
phone-
for baby Emilion, just in
Right.
case you end up being the father.
The bishop said he never knew about pregnancy. He only found out about 30 days ago through her aunt, and he came right away.
I just found out less than 30 days ago at the most that she had a baby. Her auntie called my superiors in my organization, and I got a phone call saying there's some woman saying that you left her with child in New York. I made the phone call, and I was told 30 days ago, just 30 days ago.
Mr. Miles said he found out about the pregnancy after 5 to 6 months, and she told him he was the father. Ms. Webster said she told Miles there was a possibility he was the father. The bishop jumped in and said that this was why he had doubts about the paternity of the child. The courtroom clapped.
Really? I said, how long? She was like, I'm about 5 to 6 months. I said, so you trying to tell me that it's mine? She said,
5 to 6 months before you told him?
Well, I
So
was
you
4
can
to 5
imagine, I didn't know it all.
So when you told him, I'm pregnant, did you then tell him, and you're the father?
No, I told him it's a possibility that he can be my baby's father.
Ms. Webster presented a birth certificate. Nobody was listed as the father, but she gave the baby Miles's last name. The bishop said if she was happy with Miles, why did she contact him? She said she had to make sure who the father is, and she's ready to find out. And she was not alone in that regard. Only the DNA results from the court can clear this. Show results.
Mr. Miles Jones, you are not her father. Mr. House, it has been determined by this court that you are not her father.
Mr. Alexander is trying to legally remove his name from the birth certificate of the child of his ex-girlfriend, Ms. Stewart, because he believes he's not the father of the child. Ms. Stewart believes otherwise, that the negligence of Mr. Alexander has left her and her kids homeless.
Mr. Alexander, you are suing your ex-girlfriend for $40 for the cost of the administration fee to legally remove your name from her 4-month-old daughter, Jariah's birth certificate, because there is absolutely no way you are her biological father.
Yes, Your Honor. Honor.
Mr. Alexander stated his reasons for trying to determine paternity, that Ms. Stewart was having an affair with another man. His name was Dexter, that she was also keeping late nights, and this was during the window of her conception.
Text messages and several phone calls from this guy named Dexter. She wouldn't answer the phone when I was in the room. I guess she would wait until maybe I left or whatever, so that's kind of a suspicion for me.
So you saw text messages coming in on her phone?
Right.
But you never questioned her about it?
Yeah, I asked her about it, and she told me, like, don't worry about it, like, basically, like, it's none of my business.
Ms. Buse Stewart disagreed, that she didn't even tell him about the pregnancy till about 2.5 months later. They were going through a rough patch. Mr. Alexander said they were on a 3-month break when he learned about the pregnancy.
That's why I'm in doubt, too.
Because this was during the window of conception.
Right.
So you feel like she was cheating on you during the time Jariah was conceived.
Correct.
Is that true, Ms. Stewart?
No, Your Honor, it is not. And I'm not even sure why he denies. I mean, I didn't tell him.
Ms. Stewart said they were still having sex together during the break, and she wasn't cheating on him. She was suspicious of Mr. Alexander that he was the one cheating on her. She even put a tracking device on his phone and discovered that he was in fact cheating.
I don't understand how he doesn't say that. Every time we're on a break, it's not necessarily a break because we still have sex, so it's not really a break.
So were you cheating?
No, Your Honor, I was not. Let me tell you what happened. So I started feeling that he was cheating on me.
She submitted the evidence to Judge Lauren. It was displayed on the monitor and read aloud to the entire courtroom. Mr. Alexander denied it, that the messages weren't his.
That is when he was gone. He told me that he was at his aunt's house, and obviously you can see there he's talking to a girl right there.
So at 7:08 p.m., his phone got a text from a number that's not yours that says, I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah.
Ms. Stewart came clean that she was only pretending to be talking to a man named Dexter to get back at Mr. Alexander. Dexter was her female friend. She only changed the name. She never cheated on him.
Somebody else's fine booty.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Stewart, I'm trying to understand what this all has to do with Dexter. Because if we're being completely honest, even if this is his phone log and he was going after someone else or dating someone else or cheating, that would not have anything to do with the paternity of Jariah.
Mr. Alexander brought out his sister as a witness. She was also friends with Ms. Stewart for about 15 years now. She said Dexter was a real man, that Ms. Stewart was really seeing him, and they've gone out to meet other guys together before. Ms. Stewart denied all the allegations.
Stewart and I have been friends for over 15 years, and we've always talked and told each other secrets about, having backup plans as far as if you have a boyfriend, keeping one on the side for when your boyfriend makes you mad, you can, just go talk to other guys or whatever. So as far as this guy goes, it's not a hoax. They actually hang out all the time.
Mr. Alexander said during a previous argument, Ms. Stewart had told him that the baby was not his. The judge confirmed the statement, and Ms. Stewart agreed. She said it only happened once. She said she only wished it wasn't his baby so that they would go their separate ways.
Recently, yes, we have. They just had a little break also, and she thought he was cheating, so we went out to go hang out with guys.
She's also told me several times that when we be in the heat of an argument, that the baby's not mine. So
I said that one time.
Therefore, I have doubt.
Ms. Stewart has been shouldering the burden of raising the child on her own. Mr. Alexander said he cannot take care of a baby that he's not sure of. He's a good father to their first child, but not the second one. Only the DNA results can save the child from neglect at this point.
Mr. Alexander, you are her father.
Brandon, after a 12 years relationship with Ms. Fuller, got a shocker when she confessed that their 3-year-old son may not be his biological child. He broke off his engagement to her, and he's struggling with the possibility of losing his son. Ms. Fuller said she was having an affair with another man at the time. She hid this from Brandon.
3-year-old son Brandon Jr. may not be your biological child. Now you say your engagement to Ms. Fuller is broken off and your heart is in ruins because of the possibility you may now lose your son too.
Yes, Your Honor.
Brandon said they got separated when the baby was 6 months old because they had to move. He took the baby to a birthday party. When he returned the child, Ms. Fuller wasn't home and she wasn't answering her calls. This went on for days.
Had to separate because we had to move.
So you all were in a relationship.
We were in a relationship.
Baby was what? Born.
Yep. And we were living together.
6 months in.
6 months in, we had to move. We fell on some hard times.
Okay.
Respectively, I moved back to my mom's.
A week later, Brandon started receiving calls from a private number. It was Ms. Fuller. She had gone to spend the week with the man she actually thought was the biological father of the baby. She requested for a face-to-face meeting with Brandon.
He asked you on the phone, or he said, meet me and I want to talk about this?
He asked me on the phone. He was mad at me and he was upset. He was wondering where we had been that whole week.
Where were you that whole week?
I had left to go be with the guy that I thought.
Ms. Fuller presented a picture of the other man, that the baby started looking like him. That's why she disappeared. She was feeling guilty. She didn't want to lie to Brandon.
Why would you just disappear? Where did you go?
He started looking like the other guy to me when he was 6 months. I have a picture. To
So
me, he just
right
didn't
around,
look.
okay, now
he didn't
the
look like
pieces are
neither
coming
one.
together.
He didn't look
Pieces are
like
coming
he
together.
didn't look like neither one of us to me at the time.
Brandon presented pictures to the judge, showing how close he was to the child. He was there for the kid as a father would. He cared for the child and fed him. The kid even has his last name. He never had any doubt that he was the father.
This baby is named after you.
Oh yeah.
It's your son.
Sleeping on my chest at night, just everything. I mean, I barely move. I mean, you know, like I would sleep like this, real quiet, real.
He discovered her infidelity when she forgot to log out from her Facebook account after using his phone. He saw the messages in the inbox, and one of them stood out. She told the other man that the child doesn't look like Brandon and she needs his help.
I was on my way to some bad things. When he was born, it's just like, I gotta stop.
Brandon Jr. is 3 now.
3.
So you spent the next 2.5 years continuing
Yeah.
to bond.
Yeah. And then we had a falling out, like serious falling out. She got on social media on my phone, okay, but didn't close it.
This led to a long and heated argument between the couples. The neighbors had to call the cops for domestic disturbance.
It did.
So what happened?
I got upset, okay? Well, actually, I sat down on the couch at first. I was like, So I handed her the phone. I was like, read this. So she reading it, you know. She kind of got a little look on her face or whatever. And I got up after that, and I went to the washer, and I started taking...
Ms. Fuller said she had been in an on and off relationship with the other man for about 8 years, till when she had her baby. This left the entire courtroom in disbelief. She presented a calendar chart to the judge showing the timeline of her relationships with both men. She said she wasn't supposed to have a child, that her child was a miracle baby.
It was off and on for about 8 years or whatever. Around the time
It went on for how long?
it was like 8 years off and on, but it wasn't like
8 years off and on?
Yes.
Oh, until what time?
Brandon never knew another man was ever in the picture. He had no clue. Ms. Fuller, with tears in her eyes, apologized to Brandon, that Brandon was the perfect man to raise her child and not the other man. Brandon said she was the one that broke off the engagement and there might be no coming back. Only the DNA results can settle this squabble at this moment.
Mr. Brandon Robinson Sr., you are his father.
Mr. and Mrs. White, a newlywed couple, make an appearance in Judge Lauren's courtroom today. Mrs. White is trying to save her marriage by proving that Mr. White is indeed the father of their 3-year-old daughter. She agreed to have cheated in the past, but the results today will help her gain her husband's trust back. Mr. White disagrees. He said he's ready for a divorce.
Ms. White, you've opened your case because your last and only way to save your marriage and family is to prove to your husband that he fathered your 3-year-old daughter, Savannah.
Yes, Your Honor.
You admit you've cheated in the past, but hope once the results are revealed, your husband will trust you again. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. White said his wife was having her ex-boyfriend over while he was at work. His neighbors told him. This prompted him to snoop around her social media, and it led to a quarrel between them. The ex-boyfriend showed up. This confirmed his suspicion that something was going on between them.
Just the other day, she was at my mother's, and she woke up and she asked, "Where's Daddy?"
And I can see this is just tearing you apart.
It is.
It's just eating away at you. I can see that. Explain to the court how it has been for 3 years to have doubt.
It's been rough and emotional because when it first all come about to where I had the suspicions, it was she was having an ex-boyfriend come over while I was at work.
Mr. White said a week after their wedding, his wife was constantly cheating on him. Everyone in the courtroom, including the judge, was stunned. She asked Mrs. White if the allegations were true. She said they were, that she was suffering from abandonment, issues being an adopted child and all.
You just don't have any trust in this relationship.
No, because from a week after we got married until February of this year, I've been catching her cheating constantly.
A week after you got married?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. White, have you been cheating?
Yes, but I have like abandonment issues because I was adopted. So like if he's not showing me the love and affection that I need.
She said their anniversary is in 2 days, that she wanted to make this right, that she's certain he's the father of the child. She moved in with her husband when she was 19 years old and got pregnant after 8 months. They married after the birth of their first child, and she started cheating immediately.
You admittedly have been cheating cheating, you've had to open this case to prove paternity of Savannah in hopes of saving your marriage.
Yes, our anniversary is in 2 days, and so I want to make this right so we can better our marriage and prove that Savannah is his.
Mr. White found out when the baby was 6 months old during an argument. His wife told him that there's a high chance he's not the father.
Mr. White, when did you find this out?
I didn't find out for sure until she admittedly told me when Savannah was 6 months old that there was a 50-50 chance that Savannah wasn't mine.
And how did you get to a place where you decided you're gonna tell him, Miss White?
We got into an argument and we ended up splitting up, and I was over at my mom's house.
Mr. White presented text message evidence between his wife and another man on Valentine's Day. She planned to go spend it with him because Mr. White didn't get her anything.
My father and mother's issues and seeing it, and I'd rather not have my kids in that environment where they're seeing mom and dad argue over something. They don't need to see it. They either need to have family together where there's no issues, there's faithful and everybody's sticking to it, or we do it as separate parents, but we still sit there and have a civil.
Mr. White presented pictures of his wife sexting other men to the judge. He said he took his wife's phone into his possession after seeing all the text messages. Mrs. White said she didn't do anything sexual with the man on Valentine's Day. She just went over to talk.
And I assume, Mr. White, since you handed this up to the court, this is not your body part.
No.
This is what you found in her phone.
Yes, this is the gentleman that she went to his house on Valentine's Day.
Tell me what happened behind that story, Ms. White.
We didn't even do anything on Valentine's Day. We just sat there and talked. That's all we did on Valentine's Day.
Mrs. White says she wants to turn over a new leaf. No more cheating. That's why she's here in court to determine the paternity of the kids and move on with their lives.
You're saying you're not getting what you need in the marriage. So why not just leave the marriage? Why keep doing this if you are gonna engage in this type of activity?
Well, I called the court just so I can get the results of the kids. And
Mr. White, with tears in his eyes, narrated how he loved his kids and she couldn't live without them, that his wife was emotionally manipulative towards him. Her current pregnancy is still under scrutiny because of her cheating habits. Only the results can lay this to rest.
Mr. White, you are her father. How do you feel?
I feel happy.
How do you feel, Ms. White?
relieved because he's a great dad and I want him to be all of my children's father.